in session 1. Her name is Mercy Okiro. She's an accredited tutor, assessor, an accredited mediator of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators London and the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration, as well as an adjunct faculty member at the Kenya School of Law and Strathmore University. Mercy is also on the panel of neutrals of various institutions locally and regionally. She's also listed on the panel of lawyers of the Sports Disputes Tribunal in Kenya and the Court of Arbitration for Sports in Switzerland. She is the vice chairperson of the KEPSA Gender Sector Board and vice chairperson of the National Construction Authority. She'll be speaking to us about staying on course and exploring global opportunities, looking lovely in red. Let's give a round of applause to Mercy Okiro.
Yes, thank you for that song. I feel psyched already. All protocols observed, and I see many familiar faces. Try and elaborate. Try and elaborate. It has been had spoken to me in a dream when I was a young girl, and I knew that I could see I'm not from a family that has privilege, and I knew anything I wanted in this life would be courtesy of law. In Form 3, I saw Professor Ojenda on TV, and I said that would be my boss. My mom was like, what? He became my boss and my mentor. So I wouldn't call it manifesting, I just call it planning in advance. Manifesting, I'm coming later to that. That also, there's a sprinkle of manifestation. Now, you have to be observant and identify gaps. I remember my first time I was a SIAB young member after campus before I graduated. I'll rewind a bit so that I start the journey. In second year, we were learning some things about dispute resolution, but I remember I had mediation, negotiation. That lecture and identify. I stuck like a sore thumb for many things. I was young, I was out of campus, I had not even graduated, and of course, there was the age issue. So I sat, and that's the thing I think if anyone takes away from here is look at the gaps and introspect. And I asked myself, how do I want this cocktail to look next year? Because I am a type A personality, all of you. Board of SIAB Kenya. So I stood for elections in 2015 when I was, I think, 26 or 7, and I won. So I joined the board. Those who were on the board at that time, I do know, it was only Njeri. Njeri was the only other woman. So for me, my song every day was Young Members Group, Young Members Group. Eventually, I remember the then chair, Mr. Kihara, and then I see Patrick, sorry. We were on the same board, and eventually we launched. When Young Members Group started, I saw more and more young people coming. Actually, since we started Young Members Group, Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, everyone who was in the initial steering committee has gone on to be chair. People at my first cocktail pay attention that there's a crop of people who are coming, and it also made other people more comfortable to come to events, because personally I'm not hoity-toity like that, but I'm still a baby girl. No, Jerry, I know Jerry knows me too much. Don't tell them say for free that between conflict, of course, I went to school. Actually, at my big age, I bought my first car this year. There's no for hiding. Let's just tell people the truth. Years that I have invested that time, also and money. Time is also important, and I must say you need to apply yourself. Just as Irene, back to you again. Irene, today is your day. When I wanted to do mediation at FIDA after training at Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, I went and needed mentorship. I went to FIDA and there was observation. I did observation. I waited, hey, nothing is happening. So I just went to Irene's office. I'm like, "Hey, today, when is my own matter?" Irene had to give me matters. And after that, she kept giving me matters until quarter next mediation started. And by that time, I was already experienced. So I think, actually, I don't think, I know also I was the youngest accredited mediator in the first batch of 60. So you must push through. 3, consistency is the mother of mastery. For you to get good at something, you'll give it time. My first entry exam in mediation was in 2011 November. I have listened to, I think, over 6 months of podcasts and read over 500 books on arbitration and mediation. So that for me to understand things to that extent in my head, I've spent time. I just didn't happen on them. Also, be willing to be in the trenches. Pulling these women in ADR since our first event in 2018, I believe March, which I attended, March or May. People who started Young Members Group, women like Njeri who've gone before us so that they can get into initiatives and also start things and show us it's possible. People who got into quarter next mediation, I've seen Honorable Kendango and Elizabeth Tanui. Thank you. I remember my first mediation, I entered the mediation room and the parties were laughing. They were like, who is this child? At that time, I was not even 30. I sat and I sweated so much from waist down, but within 4 hours, we settled that matter. But then nowadays, me and succession matters, I still have PTSD. But you have to get in there and do it. So many students nowadays are doing mediation, and you see the idea of a mediator sometimes is someone who's so experienced. I was doing them at, I think, 2 years post-admission. I still used to sweat, by the way, but now I learned how to get into the program. Nowadays, I move with speed. The need for mentors is very important. And I'll say this about mentors. When I started working as an advocate, I started working out of university. And at that time, of course, I was working for, unfortunately, all my former bosses now are politicians. I was working for Senator Omogeni, and then later on, I joined the firm of Professor Tom Ojenda. He has been my mentor, and he'd held my hand from campus. However, when I was called to the bar, he could clearly see I had an interest in ADR more than litigation. So he told me, I will still hold your hand, but this is the advice I'll give you. Look for someone who practices this ADR that you like so much so that they can guide you in that direction. Mr. Ohaga, you know you are next in this. I booked an appointment with Mr. Ohaga through his PA. Now, Mr. Ohaga, senior counsel, by then he was not, but he was still a senior practitioner. And I went to his office and I told him that I want to do ADR and everything. So he actually told me to talk to his PA and see how I can be slotted in. Then we later met at the Law Society ADR committee, actually in my year. Jerry is my mother. So there is that. As to fear, imagine there's no day you'll be ever ready for anything. I've told you that I was sweating. Many matters have posed midway. On the rooftops. Whoever here I'm out there, I get into rooms and I'm like, I have plans for these people. They just don't know yet. So I enter and I sit, I observe, I listen, and I plan. I told you at the beginning, it's not sheer luck, it's strategy. When I vied for board, I knew what my strategy was. Even now that I'm in other spaces, my KEPSA people, I'm their vice chair. Tomorrow we have an event that I'll discuss later. Anything, even the government board and me, and I thank John Gumi, Mr. John Gumi, who spoke earlier. I didn't just get into that accidentally. People should stop lying to others. You have to lobby, but you see, how do you lobby? That's the first question. Do your papers even match that? Second, do you know what you will do when you get into a board? Because sometimes you pray for things and then you get them and you don't know what to do with them. Because boards are not child play. People want boards, they are not child play. And those of you who sit in boards or who sat in boards can tell you, especially public sector board, it's business. No one is there to play with you. And if you're the vice chair in a board like me, full of men, it's double the wahala, or double the pressure. So you may want certain things, but have you planned yourself? Have you watched women on boards? Have you gone to women in boards? And men, because majority of boards have men. So have you sat with men who are in those situations so that you know how to navigate such waters? I must also say, as women, for me, and Njeri knows this because I was in her office literally forever, I will be here to admit for the first time that I have struggled a lot with a lot of stress and mental issues in terms of almost feeling depressive when I was in this hustle of ADR. So let me not lie to you that show up I always did, and some people can attest to it. I have never not showed up for anything. But I would sometimes show up after a day of crying, after a day of feeling like I want to just die. Okay, not suicidal thoughts, but feeling overwhelmed because I was like, oh my God, this journey. Let me tell you, now I think about those things and I laugh. Because why? One, I had to punch through so many walls on my own single-handedly. My mental togetherness, as it were, and psyche. Not two hands are the same, but then in terms of personality, not everyone will be chair of FIDA. Not everyone will be Nairobi branch chair. I salute you, my chair. Not everyone will be the chair of SIAB. But in our own ways, we can make differences. We can contribute to whatever field. And I believe truly that you are where you are supposed to be right now. Where you are, you're supposed to be. So what are you doing while you're there? Because I've said, for me, nothing happens generally by sheer accident. I'm already planning in these 5 years what I want in this KK regime. I've been planning. Yes. How do I want in the next election? Where do I want to be placed? And My motivation, because that was really the thing, my motivation is it doesn't have to be hard for everyone. That's why some people have to go ahead of others. Yes, you're supposed to be where you are right now. Where you are is where you're supposed to be, but what are you doing? What are you doing in that current circumstance? Why are you asking for more and you can't handle what you have? Also, I like making myself happy when I see other people happy. So that's also a motivation. I like to see my girls, my young people. I like to see all of us moving. Let's all get out of the struggle. And also remember, closed mouths do not get fed. If you have a concern or an issue or a request or an area you want to get into, if you keep quiet, no one will know. How did I get into sports? By walking to Sports Tribunal, and Mr. Ohaga and Jerry Onyango, branch members, arbitrators are the ones who helped me navigate those waters. If you keep quiet, you will not get fed. But me, since I like eating, I never keep quiet. Thank you.
Cabinet Secretary position. Ahead. And can we give one more round of applause to the panel and speakers? You may take your seats. Thank you so much. We are about to get into a break, and Mercy talked about something really important, finding your tribe. And we'll start with the next session of speakers. We have two fantastic dynamic speakers who will be coming up on stage to engage us. So for now, the next 10 minutes, engage, network, exchange those cards, find your tribe, and we'll be back in the room at 8 p.m. Thank you so much.